Greetings, it's Deidre. So I wanted to talk to you today about one of the many career options that we spoke about last time that you can definitely choose. And one of those is advocacy. And that's actually what's close to my heart because that's what I do. And in that wheelhouse, if you will, the public health issue that is really important to me, or issues I should say, is tobacco control. I also do a little bit of work in sexual and reproductive health, specifically in the menstrual health field, giving menstrual hygiene supplies to displaced women and girls. But back to tobacco. So one of the issues in tobacco that I've been advocating on in my work life, I guess you can say, is menthol. But menthol is pretty special to me regardless if it was work or not, or the issue of menthol, because it is a flavor that by its own is pretty harmless. On its own, it's pretty harmless. It's used in a lot of things we use every day. Toothpaste, candies, one of the biggest ones. A lot of things use menthol. Menthol is a derivative of the mint plant, and it's where we get that cool and refreshing taste. There's an industry that uses menthol for the worst, and that's the tobacco industry. Menthol, or the flavor of menthol when coupled with tobacco, is a concoction that is just prime for disaster and ready to take lives. At this point, there's no secret that the tobacco industry is responsible for marketing a deadly product that causes the deaths of over 400,000 U.S. citizens each year. So for over 60 years, the tobacco industry has employed predatory and aggressive marketing tactics to underserved communities, specifically Black communities. Now, menthol is what I call the great initiator. Actually, it's the flavor that most young people start with because it gives that misconception of safe smoking. So what happens is, because mint is like also an anesthetic, it numbs the throat and masks the harshness of the tobacco while it's going down. So you'll have a lot of young people or new people who are starting to smoke and get hooked on the product use menthol in order to make it easier for it to go down. The other thing, strike number 2, I like to call it, is because most Black smokers use menthol. And like I said before, it's because of that long history of predatory practices from the tobacco industry. The existence of these decade-old practices and the inaction of policymakers to stop it is the reason why we have a huge gap in racial health inequities and why disparities exist. It's not the only reason, but it's definitely a big part of it. As I've said before, COVID put a magnifying glass over the health inequities that have been in existence for centuries, especially when it comes to Black Americans who have been in this country for centuries. If we've learned anything from all of the protests and rioting last year that inundated news cycles, is that some people are tired. They are sick and tired of being assaulted and then discarded and dismissed. Well, the tobacco industry has been assaulting people of color, specifically Black people, for years. It's just that assault looks different. It's not the same kind that you see that make the front page or will be on air on your nightly news. It's the kind of assault that gets seen and gets swept under the rug, which is why we need advocacy to help and bring those things into the light and educate community members and policymakers alike so that everybody understands and is aware of the disparities caused by a particular flavor being added to a deadly product. Tobacco use is still very much a most preventable cause of death, and continued availability of menthol cigarettes only creates negative health impacts for Black Americans that have been noticed but gone unchecked. So advocacy is really important so that we get that information and education to the community members and policymakers alike so that we can make sure and ensure that we are promoting health, preventing disease, and prolonging life. And that's through public health policies that work. So for those of you who are interested in advocacy, I hope that this was a really good example for you to see how it works. As always, make sure you follow, like, save, share, and subscribe. See you in the forward.